For those of you who are in the Global Friends group, or even those who are practicing silently behind the scenes, I'd like to take a few moments to help you grasp the significance of what you're doing when you're involved in a global group with intention. We just discussed the importance of the four postures as they're related to four different constitutional energies that compose the body, the mind, and the soul. So when we're doing those four postures, we're actually using our body, the most free will instrument we have, the body instrument, combined with our free will to make a choice to align ourselves to the greater good of our progress, whatever we may currently see that to be in this moment. So in the midst of doing these four postures, there's going to be the arrival of the law of attraction events designed to enable you to open and expand. Now, this expansion has predictable diameters of feeling. By that I mean, one type of feeling is going to be that which is most familiar to you, which is going to be your relationship to your mother and your father and your family, be it your own children, your own ancestors, or your grandchildren. Its family is very much that very first ring. It is a diameter of inclusiveness. Now, it also has an extension because of the ancestral nature of it. It has also the beginnings into the next curvature, which is the influence of who you are in your relationship to go out into the world and to meet people who are not of the same blood family, even though they may be very closely related genetically, which all people are to some degree or another. The people on that second degree is who you start to relate to. On that third ring, which is one of the most challenging ones, that's who you are relating to in the community. A community is a place where we are primarily operating with the use of our ancestral, genetic, epigenetic, parental influences. We're operating that within a diameter that now may include tens of thousands, even millions of people living in the city around us, that we are now living in that community. Another ring above that is the ring of your own nationality. For example, you might be Brazilian, you might be Costa Rican or American, you might identify with the location of that group. That's a group dynamic function, and that's primarily a national boundary, and that could be, in the case of the U.S., it could be 300 million people. In Brazil, it's 200 million. I'm not sure what the Aussies are at right now, maybe 24 million. The Swedes are closer to 10 million, and so on. So there'll be millions of people in that national group. But the international group is a group that is global. Now, the number of people, obviously, and that is at least 7 billion people, so that the number of people in that ring now increases the amount of life force or vitality that will be required for you to enter into it, but it's also a resource to help you. So when you start to tune into an international group, when you literally start to say, look, I'm going to experiment with having an emotional intention to give and receive inspiration from people around the world, so that you're literally, regardless of where they're from, regardless of their customs, regardless of their culture or their family or their race, economic class, and so on, no matter where they live, you want to relate to people in the world. You've now intentionally put your attention on the fifth ring. The fifth ring is a profoundly important ring. In order to really go into that ring, you'd have to look at what is the nature of the unity of all living things, because it transcends the boundary of the mind. The mind is primarily limited to the third ring and a little bit into the fourth, but the third ring. And what that means is your mind is an instrument of your free will. I can move my hands, I can move my head, I can move my body. They're instruments of my free will. That spectrum is related to the senses: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. But when you're talking about the unity on a global level, you have to go beyond sight, beyond the senses, beyond the sound. So you can't touch them. You have to go into a place where you are allowing yourself and asking of yourself to feel them beyond mind. Because in that spectrum, there are other senses that can be developed. There are other colors that can be experienced, and so on and so on. There is a multiplicity of other feelings available on a global level, because you're talking at least 7, 8, 9, 10 billion. But eventually you see that the global is also connected to number 6, which means the unity of all living things also includes the spirit world. Now that includes all of your ancestors in the spirit world. It includes everyone else in the spirit world. And that's a whole other topic as it goes up to level 6 in its attempt to go into the bridge of level 7. So if you're really wanting to do this global experiment, then you should be prepared for the likelihood that your desire to go there is going to be lovingly met by the increase of the flow of the law of compensation and the law of attraction, meaning that you're going to more quickly receive things within your own family and more quickly have the capacity to be able to process them. So I'm saying if you put yourself out on the global friends spectrum, you're going to start to feel not only your own feelings that are very personal to yourself and your family, but you're going to tune into just a bit more of those feelings that have to do with what is universal in the world. So what are the universal feelings that other people, everyone on earth, deals with? Now the advantage is your willingness to go there increases the speed of your ability to process it. Because each one of these rings has a magnitude of force 1, give it a scale of a 10. Now, every one of these rings are increased by a power of 10. So the second ring is an increase by the power of 10, so that's 100 on the 2. So then we're up to 10 times more on the 3, and we're up to 1,000. 1,000 times more feeling, sensitivity, leverage, opportunity, speed, the ability to be able to process. Now when you start to get up to level 4, now you're 10,000 times stronger than it is on a community level. You go up to the next level, 10,000, level 5, we're talking about 100,000 times more sensitivity, depth, texture, feeling, awareness, scope, intelligence, sensitivity, and things that are beyond the range of your normal perception now become part of what will become available to you. So that's why it's important. Yes, you may already be there by having a compassion for all living things, but that includes everything on earth: mineral kingdom, plant kingdom, animal kingdom, all of the species, regardless of where they are, in the body, outside of the body, microorganisms, trillions and trillions of microorganisms inside the human body, and then hundreds of trillions of those around you in the world around us. So your opportunity to grow more earnestly arrives significantly on the level 5. Why is 5 so important? Well, 5 is so important because 6 is the head, 5 is the throat and shoulders. So the throat has to do with free will, transparency, authenticity, and a whole series of things regulated by the experience of compassion. Compassion is an immune system response, and compassion is primarily regulated by the thyroid, and your experiences to go into the compassionate realm is greatly increased by your sincere desire to want to do that while not judging anything that you're going into. So in order to go into the 5, there is a need to do what I call the 4. The 4 is the generosity of giving. That's the whole process of circulating. But it's also the capacity to receive. So that's 2 sides of the heart. The giving of the heart, joyous celebration, prosperity, friendship, and the ability to receive is also a process of friendship where you're receiving, not judging, allowing, and you're now starting to circulate, and that's really what friends on a global level are wanting to do. So if we have joined together, which you had no idea really what you might be getting into, 33 people who have made a decision that they want to do a giving and receiving function of inspiration on a global level. So one of the first things that's going to come are some challenging moments. And I'm pretty sure, even though it's only been about a little more than 3 weeks since we started, every single one of you who've been involved in that group, you've had some pretty challenging moments. I'm urging you to be aware of it. So you'll see it because you'll start to do your, I don't really want to do my postures now or today. I'm not sure about this. And there's posture fatigue, motivational fatigue, something slowing you down that doesn't want to experience the associated pain and feelings that you're going to begin to touch into. So what are some of the most common feelings? If you were to send your perception out in the world and to feel all of humanity as a global unit, what are some of the most common feelings? Well, some of the ones I've noticed: weariness. Weariness means some people are just emotionally, physically tired, slightly overwhelmed. There's a certain degree of restlessness, uncertainty, or anxiousness. There's a feeling of being alone, a feeling of being overwhelmed. Yes, there's little flashes of hope about the future. Human being is really kind of uncertain and a little anxious about the future, and they at times feel disappointed because of the way that people are treating them and everybody else. Some people, they go into some quiet need for grief. So just be aware of your sensitivities on a global level. 2 of the primary things that just to watch is your ability to be able to receive without judgment. No need to turn away from the thing, just perceive this and allow it. The other part, back on the number 2 spectrum, very early on, is your ability to use your own empathy. Now, empathy gives you 2 gifts at the same time. One part of the empathy is the ability to feel the feelings of another or of others on a group level. So your empathy will give you the capacity to feel it. But right there next to empathy is another line called discernment, and discernment is linked into truth. So if you're practicing the protocol and you're practicing the sincere desire to know the truth about this feeling you're going through, your discernment will work in harmony with your empathy so that you can feel the anxiety in the world but not be affected by it. Just because you feel it doesn't mean you have to become it. You can feel the grief, you can feel the sadness, you can feel the rage. But a lot of people can't feel some other feelings that they don't really want to feel, such as numbness. Most people don't feel their own numbness, but it's there. Most people don't really feel the magnitude of anger or rage they really have. If they were allowed to express it, they would be a lot more angry than they are right now. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to go to the global level, go there, be there, feel that around you, and notice what's coming through, but don't take it on. Just let it flow through. Show me the truth about this feeling and this feeling and this feeling and that feeling. And what you'll find, it usually passes within hours at the most. Some of the tougher ones will last longer, especially the numbness. And some of the feelings around shame will last longer. Guilt will last longer. Some of those last for days, some even longer. So if you'll take the time to observe your own experiences, you're going to go through this a whole lot better than most people. Remember, this is just month number 1 out of 9. It's also the number 1 month in the northern hemisphere and the southern hemisphere. It's about boy number 1, inspiration and humility, and girl number 1, the founding force of vitality and the founding force of the will and the home and the family. So in the southern hemisphere, you're really in the 1 girl month. Study it, enjoy it, utilize it. Use the forces of nature to help you build your will. In the northern hemisphere, this is a feminine time. It's time for you to have the opportunity to feel humility, sensitivity, and those things will help you pass through this moment. Because next, we have another very important month coming next month. We have the 3. And I'll give you some greater explanations about the 3. That is 1, 3, 5. I know we skipped numbers in there, but 1, 3, 5 in the north and 1, 3, 5 in the south. These are specifically related to the 3 months of this season, leading right down into the equinox in March. Yes, I'm looking forward to this one, because theoretically there'll be things available in March that have not been available before. So this is an overview. Just keep this umbrella in mind and let yourself just feel the world around you. Don't be afraid. Just get in there and feel. Yeah, you might hurt a little bit, but you might also grow faster than you even imagine.